Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome back to White Lions F1, and today was the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. I think that's how you say it. So today, of course, was the race, and before I talk about the race itself, I've got to talk quickly about qualifying. I was actually going to make it a video on its own. I had Dylan over. We were going to talk about the qualifying as its own because obviously Barcelona is where they did winter testing, so it was a couple of upgrade packages and so on. I should probably put up the qualifying results, so now you can see it here. It was pretty interesting. It was pretty awesome. A lot of surprises and some which were less surprising since it was in the wake of these new upgrades. Red Bull were hoping to have apparently a brand new car. They kind of really didn't, as you can see. Daniel Ricciardo was all the way down in 6th. Actually, sorry, Max Verstappen was in 5th. So it was pretty much Mercedes 1, 2. Why am I saying that? No, it was Mercedes, then Ferrari, then Mercedes, then Ferrari, then Red Bull. They're basically, residing as the third best team. So they expected to be way ahead, and they were pretty much where they left off. So they had this new aero package and so on, but it just didn't really push them ahead. Mercedes had a couple of upgrades as well. They were expecting, some of us were expecting them to be, leagues ahead, and as you can see, it was almost nothing in it. If it wasn't for Sebastian Vettel locking up on his final quali, he might have got ahead of Hamilton. But then Hamilton, on his final quali lap, didn't have the best. He said that he could get a little bit more of out of that car, and he didn't on that lap. So maybe that was literally how it should have been. But yeah, the big surprise of that one, of course, is if you look below Daniel Ricciardo, you see a McLaren of none other than Fernando Alonso. It's not like it's going to be Van Dorn, is it? That was incredible. I don't know where he got that lap time from. I have no idea. Friday was looking average. Saturday, in fact, Friday wasn't looking average. It was looking crap. In fact, so Saturday we were expecting pretty much nothing from them. So the fact he made it into Q3, let alone looking at 7th, ahead of Force India and Williams and all those other cars, that's unbelievable. So huge credit to him. So that was wonderful for him. But now let's talk about the race. That's the more important part. So Hamilton won. What a race! That was such an incredible race. That's, to me at least, the most entertaining race we've had all season so far. Obviously, it's only been a couple of races, but that was non-stop racing. The front pack and the mid pack. The Red Bull of Daniel Ricciardo was pretty much alone, as Vettel summed it up in the when the race was over. Vettel was speaking to Ricciardo, I guess in the paddock or in the the cool down room, and he was saying you were alone. Yeah, pretty much. He wasn't really racing anyone at any stage throughout the race. He just had a bit of a lonely third. He was actually 4th, but then Valtteri Bottas, I think his turbo overheated or something, but he broke down. It was an engine failure in one way or another. So yeah, actually, whilst we go through that, I'm going to quickly talk about all the DNFs, as you can see. So first of all, obviously I spoke about Valtteri Bottas. I can't remember what lap it was that went. Verstappen and Raikkonen, that was on the very first lap. Them two just went across into each other. Basically, Verstappen was on the outside, Kimi's in the middle, and Bottas is on the inside. Bottas kind of is getting squeezed out. He clips Kimi. Kimi loses control. Clips what's his damn name? Verstappen. It's about ironic what happens in 1 year. Verstappen last year won the race. This year he's out in the first lap. But it's a racing incident. They all kind of squeeze each other. They're all going for the same line, so it happens in racing. Both of them suffered suspension failure as a result. So there was there's not really much you really need to talk about for that one. Van Dorn, that was a really weird one. I don't know how he did it. It was a serious rookie error. Massa's coming past on the into the first corner. He's pretty much got the line. Van Dorn's just got to let him go, and he's just turned in as if he somehow didn't see him or something. But he just turned straight into him and broken his suspension. We were watching, and the commentators were super surprised. I was super surprised. I was just like, why would you do that? Proper rookie error, and it was a real shame. I don't really know what to say about it, really. It was just pretty stupid on his part. Anyway, so I'm going to go through my notes for what I was sort of thinking as the race went on. First of all, it's worth mentioning that actually though Hamilton finished where he started, same with Vettel on the first lap, Vettel got ahead of Hamilton. So Vettel and Ferrari in general have actually got this new starting procedure where they've got these new paddles and so on, which is actually a direct copy of Mercedes, because Ferrari were noticing that the Mercedes were having better starts, or quick, cleaner getaways, and they learned how they were doing it. So something about the start procedure, they kind of changed it up, literally copied it, and it definitely worked today because Vettel got ahead. And Hamilton wasn't really doing very well to keep. He wasn't doing enough to apply pressure, but he was doing enough to keep a gap consistent. He was lapping at the same time, so that was I think it was about a 2.5 second gap between Hamilton and Vettel for quite a while. Nothing was really happening, but Hamilton was keeping that gap consistent. And then Mercedes, I've never seen anything like it, but they duped Ferrari out of their socks. It was unbelievable. So Hamilton and his pit crew and his engineer, they're talking about these new targets they've got to hit, and how they're gonna pit a little bit earlier or something, about like 5 laps earlier. And we're thinking, wow, this is crazy. And Ferrari gets scared. Ferrari are like, wow, okay, no, we got to stop this. We got to prevent the undercut. So Vettel dives in quite a few laps early. And Mercedes just carry on their normal routine, and all of a sudden Ferrari have, it seems, almost given up and put themselves on the back foot. So when he pits, he came out and he was behind Massa and Ricciardo. I think Ricciardo's the main one because Massa had to sort of just let him go as a blue flag. Ricciardo didn't. So in doing so, Vettel was now stuck in this really awkward situation where he was basically being slowed down. He didn't need to be stuck in this situation. When Hamilton did eventually pit, he went on to the mediums, which are known as the considerably slower tyre, but much more durable. He had really, well, unfortunately for him, he had really solid pace. So basically, he was just the gap was pretty much back to where it should have been, and them two were really close. Later, Bottas then was able to defend Vettel because Bottas had jumped both Hamilton and Vettel because of the fact he was the last one to pit. So then Vettel was stuck behind Bottas, and that was, in my opinion, the most crucial stage, because then it was quite a few laps, and Vettel had to do an absolutely fabulous overtake where he did like a double duke to get past Bottas, and it was just awesome racing watching, and that was just about enough to let Hamilton on the slower tyres close the gap onto Vettel. So then when the rest of all the pits were done, Hamilton got onto the softs, and later Vettel had got onto the mediums. The gap was so close that Vettel just didn't really have much of a chance of defending, but it took a bit of time. Hamilton and Vettel also had a bit of a crash. Well, not really crash, but they had contact. Couple front wing end plates were flying about, a little bit of damage, but it was a racing incident. And they just kept going, and eventually Hamilton had got the DRS after a couple of laps. It was lap 44, which that'll stick out but I guess it's his lucky number. Under that, he managed to kind of fly past the Ferrari. Apparently, I think it was Vettel said that Hamilton was like a train or something. Just there was no stopping him. It was certainly aided in that DRS by the fact that the actual DRS zone has been brought back, so you get it a little bit earlier. Ironically, of all people, Vettel wasn't happy about this before the race started, in the discussion about these new changes, because basically Spain that track is well known for being pretty hard to overtake. And so basically what they did was they brought that back just to make it a little bit easier, because otherwise by the time you hit the DRS, there's not enough of that straight for it to really make a difference. They brought it back just so that the car ahead of you doesn't get an easy jump on you. So yeah, that definitely aided him. But even without DRS, I think Hamilton would have got past him. He was just so quick on that overtake. Going through my notes, what else is there to look at? Van Dorn we spoke about, that was a horrible one. The VSC, by the way, I should have mentioned, when Hamilton pitted for the softs, that was on the VSC. He just about managed to get it in the right gap where the VSC was ending, so he had a teeny bit of time he just saved as well, so that helped him out as well. Pascal Wehrlein I want to speak about, because he got a 5-second penalty and he ended up where did he end up finishing? Down in 8th. Well, there you go. Well, basically, I'm really happy for him because he had, in my opinion, I would say he was driver of the day because basically, is he even with Sauber? Yes, he is. He probably did the strategy call of the century. Basically, they kept him out for ages, absolute ages. He was the very, very final person to actually go into the pits. And he did so well on his first stint. Now, by the time he did his pits and came out, he just found himself, I think he was in like 7th, and then managed to hold off who was it? Science, for quite a while. And Science actually also think had a really solid race as well. So I would say it was between them two for driver of the day. Although Science was a little bit reckless coming out of the pits earlier, he nearly took himself off. But yeah, it was just he got a 5-second penalty. But he had such a great race. Wehrlein and Ocon, them two are both doing themselves so proud as these brand new young drivers. And it was just such wonderful racing from start to finish. And I genuinely couldn't believe it. I guess it was a lot. You could say a lot has changed, but kind of nothing has changed. We thought these new packages would make a massive difference. And that Red Bull would suddenly find themselves in the race, and Mercedes would suddenly find their pace back and they'd be ahead of everyone. But kind of no, really. Red Bull had these new upgrades, but all they did was play catch up, and they didn't really make much of a catch up. Mercedes, I guess you could say they're ahead, but I guess you can say they're not because at the end of the day, it was a Mercedes and Ferrari front row, and it's arguable whether maybe that Ferrari could have got ahead. So, it's kind of these upgrades have kind of not really done much to shake things up. The only disappointment from today, in my opinion, is Williams. They must be looking at it thinking that is just the worst thing possible. Massa got really unlucky. He got caught up around with all the mayhem on the first lap. Excuse me. So and obviously Lance Stroll finished in 16th, so he was last of all the people who actually did finish. Lance was super disappointed in my opinion. Williams must be looking at their season thinking what is really going on because they haven't had any solid. If it wasn't for Massa having some stellar individual performances, Williams have been pretty weak in my opinion this season. I'm not sure how the constructors is, but I think Force India, they gained a hell of a lot of space on them, and in fact, they're not only are they pushing away from Williams, but they're catching up to Red Bull, and that actually is the main talking point that somehow Force India has seemed to become the more dominant team in that mid pack. So yeah, it was a lot to learn from the Spanish Grand Prix. But overall, I don't know if my explanations have been that great. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit tired and a little bit out of it. But yeah, that's pretty much all to say. It was a fantastic race to watch. It was intense. It was entertaining where it should have been. It was just bloody awesome. And also, shout out to Kimi Räikkönen and Ferrari in general because I'm sure it's spoken about in the new in some articles in places. But basically, when Kimi crashed out, the camera panned to this poor little kid, and it was the cutest and saddest thing ever. He was some little kid crying his eyes out. He was a Ferrari fan. He had the cap and all the get-goes and all the merchandise. And this poor little boy is crying his eyes out that Kimi Räikkönen's crashed and he's out of the race. I guess he must have been a die-hard Kimi fan at the age of 2 or something, however he was. And Ferrari took the kid and brought him into the paddock to meet Kimi during the race. And then at the end of the race, when everyone's on the podiums, that kid is still right near the front, celebrating with everyone. I just thought it was such a sweet gesture by Ferrari, and I think that's one thing which is, again, I keep saying I'm going to make this podcast. I keep failing to find the time, but I really want to talk about in this podcast about connecting with the fans. And if ever you want to connect with the fans, that is the way to do it. That kid got, that was a dream come true. He wanted to watch his idol, I guess it must have been his idol race, and he got to meet him instead, and that's so wonderful. And yeah, it was a heartwarming and positive and fantastic a Spanish Grand Prix. Rate it a solid 10 out of 10 if you ask me. So yeah, thank you guys for watching so much. If you have enjoyed this, please subscribe. Click the box to watch the previous videos. Subscribe to this channel, like this video if you have enjoyed it, share it, comment below for any suggestions and so on. Also subscribe to White Lines Football, of course. That's basically our dedicated football channel. That channel is actually kind of doing really well at the moment. Lewis is absolutely banging out the videos. It's going really well there. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. Like, subscribe, share, and I will see you on the next one.